Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss the Dalit poetry named River, written by Indran. Let's look into the author's bio. Who is Indran? Indran is a pseudonym, which is a false name, which is a pen name. He is a Pondicherry born Dalit writer, art critic, and translator whose real name is B G Rajendran. He has also won the 2011 Sahitya Academy Translation Prize for his translation of Oriya poetry. He has also translated several black writings and published them in the year 1982 under the title Areekul Vanda Afrikya Vanam. Now let's look into certain features of Dalit poetry. The features of Dalit poetry will be different from those of the features normally we discuss about the mainstream poetry. The first one is de-aesthetization. According to Dalit poetry, they deconstructs the aesthetic values and aesthetic ideals created by the mainstream writings. For example, if the mainstream writings idealizes women beauty as fair, tall, etc. like that, in Dalit poetry, they de-aesthetize that because according to them everything has an aesthetic value which will not be or which may not be appreciated by everyone. That is de-aesthetization. The second one is anthropomorphization. Anthropomorphization is nothing but providing humane qualities into another thing, like an object, like bird, animal, and so on. The third thing is de-hierarchization. Usually in writings, mostly in mainstream writings, we can find a hierarchy in the writing. There will be like the upper caste, Brahmins, and so such kinds of things are dismantled here. And the language of the Dalit literature, the language of the Dalit poetry, here in River, we can find those terms which were used to describe the upper class ones or the mainstream ones will be used with the same emotion and effect in Dalit poetries. Also, Dalit poetry and Dalit poets always tries to decenter the images. They will not focus only on the particular quality, but they will decenter all the conventional kinds of images from their writings. And also a counter discourse. Counter discourse means it is like an alternative or a parallel history. Like when mainstream history or mainstream writing says that things are happen so and so, the Dalits also claim that there are also another side for all the things and all the events listed out in the history. So let's move into the poem now. The poem's name is River. So, while talking about river, when you first see the name river, the title is a common name. It could be any river. The first image that comes to your mind will be the image of a Ganges, the image of Kaveri, the image of Yamuna, the image of Pamba, the image of Bharatapuzha river. So, think of a river, but your imagination and your visualization are all based on the aesthetics created and influenced by the mainstream literature, and that is dismantled or deconstructed with the first term or first line of the poem, that is COOUM too is a river. So why he is saying COOUM too is a river? COOUM is a river in Chennai. It is a small river. But nowadays it is not considered as a river because everyone makes use of this river as a garbage plant. They put garbage on it, they throw plastics to it. So the COOUM is famous for its garbages and the stench. But according to the poet, COOUM too is a river. So no one can say that it is not a river. It is also a river. So it breaks all the conventional image of the river that came to your mind while reading only the title. He has specified which river is this. Now the second line. The great confluence of sewage drains. Actually, this is an occasion of de-aesthetization. Confluence is a term usually used in the case of the junction of two big rivers. But here it is used in the case of sewage drains. So, COOUM river is formed with the confluence of sewage drains. Look at the adjective, the great confluence. So, this is what we call as de-aesthetization. The next lines. A watercolor sketched by the city itself with splashes of paint. So, here we can see the city is personified as a painter who, with his or her splashes of paint, draws the colorful image of the city of the COOUM. So the COOUM is portrayed as a beautiful image sketched by the painter. The painter is the city. So in these lines, personification is very much evident. Next lines. In summer too, it never did show its sands. So, it refers to the ability of COOUM to hold water even in summers. As we all know, summer is a very crucial period in the lives of people, especially in Chennai, because most of the rivers will be dry by the end of March, and there will be a lot of struggle to find some water. Even in that time, the COOUM has some water, and in the next stanza we will get to know why and what is the use of that water. In the next lines, a perennial river. What is a perennial river? A perennial river is a river which has constant stream throughout the year, which will flow throughout the year. But the term perennial is most commonly used to Kaveri, Ganges and such kinds of rivers which are suitable for the mainstream aesthetic ideals. But most of them would dry by the end of the March when there is a hot summer. But in actually the river COOUM would not show its sands, and it is eligible to be called as a perennial river. It moves majestically. So the movement is captured here. So even capturing the movement of the COOUM, it conveys that while moving majestically, if you want to move majestically, you should have the power, you should have the energy. So the COOUM has the energy because it has water even in the summer, and the water level, it is not something miniature, it is not something low. It has enough amount of water to move majestically as a king. So it refers to the amount of water in it, and it is very much high, and with the strength, with the energy of that water, the COOUM moves majestically by safeguarding the everyday secrets of the huts. So there are huts around the COOUM. So around other rivers like Kaveri, Ganges and all, there will be mansions, there will be houses, but around the COOUM there are only huts, because there lives the marginalized, economically, socially, religiously, politically marginalized people reside there. On this river bank, the civilization of the marginalized takes seed. So, mostly we have thought of the river bank. A civilization should happen in a river bank, which is like in the Nile river, Nile bank civilization, and Ganges civilization, Indus Valley civilization, like that. But a civilization can happen also in the banks of COOUM also, because COOUM is also a river. The assertion of the first statement, the assertion of the first line is continued till here. So it is also decentering the conventional idea that civilization means only in the banks of such and such highlighted or privileged rivers. No, not like that. Even in the banks of COOUM, there are civilization, but the civilization is of the marginalized people. In the next line, in the next stanza, in the scorching summer, when its cool fingers filled with stench wiped my sweat, its compassion I sensed. So, apart from all these stanzas we have done previously, the last stanza has a voice and it is stated as I. There are lots of signification, there are lots of significance for the presence of I in Dalit literature, because the I in Dalit literature do not represent a person. The I in Dalit literature always presents a group of people who were offended, who were marginalized, who were suppressed by others for many reasons. Also, in this stanza, we can see the anthropomorphization of the river of COOUM, because being compassionate and wiping the sweat, touching with cool fingers, making comfortable, all these are qualities usually associated with human beings, and all these human qualities are attributed to COOUM. So the COOUM is anthropomorphized in this stanza. So the poem River, it is a short poem of 20 lines, and it has all the features like decentering, it is a counter discourse, it has anthropomorphization, and all these things. Thank you.